Hey, today is Wednesday, August 17th, and you should be reading Isaiah 4 through 6 and Matthew 23. Just a reminder, Isaiah is a prophet. He is a messenger from God who came to tell the people of Israel what God is saying to him, what's going on. And Isaiah is warning the people. He's like, God is mad, and there's some punishment that's coming our way. And in chapter 5, God tells the story of a vine or vineyard and how he tended it and cared for it and did everything just right. Yet when it was time for the fruit to be produced, it was all bad fruit. And it's related to the Israelites. God has done everything he possibly could for these Israelites, given them multiple chances, and he has provided for them, taken care of them, and yet they still turned away from him. God's like, what more could I do? I've done everything I could for you guys, and yet you've chosen to turn away from me. You've chosen to worship idols, and God doesn't like that. And so he's punishing the Israelites. And later you see in chapter 6, God calls Isaiah to him. Isaiah sees God, and he's so afraid, Isaiah is, for seeing God face to face. And he's like, I can't do this. I am a sinner. I'm going to die. And God has an angel make Isaiah clean with putting coals from the altar onto his lips and cleansing him that way. And that doesn't seem like super relatable to us. Like, how does this affect us, knowing what God did for Isaiah? But that passage reminds me of what Jesus did for us. Jesus died on the cross so we could be cleansed, so we could be in the presence of God, just like Isaiah was in the presence of God. And I think that's a great reminder that God wants us to be near him, and he's going to do what he can so that we can be near him. He's done everything, and it's up to us to make the choice to choose to follow him. And you'll see in a little bit later in chapter 6, God says, whom will I send? And Isaiah said, here I am, send me. Isaiah has no idea what God is going to ask him to do. God just says, who am I going to send? And Isaiah's like, me, choose me. And I mean, Isaiah had no idea what he's getting into. And God asks a lot out of Isaiah as we continue to read through this, his book this month. And so it's just crazy to think of how Isaiah did that. And then God says, okay, now go tell the people this, some serious bad news. And I think for us, we have to remember that when we choose to follow Jesus and to follow God, God's going to ask us to do some stuff. And sometimes we have to be like, okay, I'll do it. I don't really know what this means or what it's going to involve, but I'm going to do it. And it's a big leap. It's a leap of faith. You know, you don't know what God is always going to ask us to do, or at least all of the moving pieces to it, because God doesn't always tell us everything right away, but he lets us know what we need to know. And so I encourage you guys today to think about, what is God asking you to do? What is he calling you to do? Just take a step of faith and follow him, even without knowing what you're going to do. And just remember that God cares for us. Just like we learned this through Jesus and his sacrifice. He died. He was God's son and died for us, so we could have a personal relationship with God. And so whatever God calls us to do, it's going to be for his good. It's going to be beneficial. And so I just encourage you guys to think about that. And when God calls you to do something, I encourage you guys to say, I'll do it. Until next time, you are sent.